Welcome to Creepy Vibes. Tonight we're taking a drive, but not the kind you come back from. Texas is big, real big. Endless highways, forgotten towns, gas stations that hum like they remember you. Out here, in the long stretches between places, something waits in the heat shimmer. Something old, something hungry. In this episode, we're hitting the blacktop with 5 terrifying Texas road trip horror stories, each one more disturbing than the last. These are tales of strange detours, haunted mile markers, phantom hitchhikers, and whispers coming from the back seat. If you've ever driven across Texas at night, you know, there's a moment when the road feels like it's driving you. The map doesn't help, and the only thing louder than the engine is the sound of something walking alongside your car. But before we start the engine, do one thing for me. Hit that subscribe button, because what's waiting on this road trip? It doesn't just haunt Texas, it follows those who listen, especially the ones who leave without subscribing. Now, grab a snack, lock the doors, and keep your eyes on the rearview mirror. Because this road, it remembers everybody. Let's drive into the darkness. The desert doesn't lie. It doesn't need to. It just waits. Somewhere west of Terlingua, where the hills roll like sleeping giants and the sky stretches out like a lidless eye, 3 college friends were about to take a wrong turn that wasn't supposed to exist. Tess spotted it first, a narrow dirt road with no signage, no fencing, no gate. Just a break in the rocks, like a mouth opening into a place the world had tried to forget. "Looks cool," she said from the back seat, leaning forward between the boys. "Bet it leads to a killer view." Kyle grinned, twitchy behind the wheel, running on Red Bull and desert air. "No signal anyway, might as well go old school." Marcus hesitated. "It's not on the map." "Exactly," Tess said. "Adventure time." They turned. The tires crunched the sand like bone dust, and the road grinned wider behind them. The farther they went, the quieter it got. Not just the desert, the car. The music had died. The AC turned warm, then hot, then wet, somehow. Kyle fiddled with the knobs. "That's weird, it smells like iron." Tess wrinkled her nose. "No, it smells like teeth." They all laughed. Then the laughter turned strange in their mouths, like they didn't remember starting it. They'd only been on the road 10 minutes when they looked at the clock. An hour had passed. Tess blinked. "That can't be right." Marcus rubbed his temples. "How long have we been driving?" The road had narrowed. The sun above them was wrong. Huge and low. Too orange, like it had been painted on a wall. Kyle's hand twitched, the wheel moved on its own, and the car didn't stop. It started faint, like a radio catching whispers. They hadn't touched the stereo since the main road, but now it buzzed, whispering, in broken syllables. Then a voice came through, soft, calm, female. "You're almost through the teeth. Don't stop now. Keep driving." They all heard it. Kyle slammed the brakes. The car didn't stop. He jammed both feet on the pedal. "What the hell?" Tess screamed. Marcus reached for the keys, but there were no keys anymore. Just a blank hole in the dash, smooth and black like obsidian. The road began to twist, like intestines, bending in unnatural curves. The horizon folded inward. Rocks on the sides of the road jutted up in symmetrical rows, jagged, crooked. They weren't rocks, they were molars. Time unraveled. They saw stars blink in daylight. Deer with too many eyes crossed the road on backward legs. Tess had a nosebleed. Marcus began mumbling in Latin, though he'd never studied it. "You're doing so well," the voice cooed. "Almost through." Just a few more inches. Inches? Kyle rasped. We've driven miles. But he was wrong. Outside the window they saw themselves, another version of them, walking into the desert hand in hand, smiling, then burning, then turning inside out, mouths stretching until they disappeared into themselves. Tess covered her ears. We're not supposed to be here. This is a mouth. We're in its mouth. And somewhere miles down their throat road something giggled. Kyle's knuckles bled from gripping the wheel. His eyes were rolled back. Tess was sobbing in the back, her lips whispering her mother's name over and over. Marcus had gone silent, gazing ahead with wide, reverent eyes. We're in it, he said. What? Tess croaked. The thing. The god. The road. It's not a path, it's a creature, we're inside it. The dashboard split like a mouth and the voice returned. Good little drivers, no more fuel, just bone. The car lurched forward into blackness. They found the Camry 3 months later, parked, in perfect condition on the same shoulder near Terlingua. No footprints, no tire marks, no bodies. The engine was still warm. On the dusty windshield, scrawled in some dark brown liquid, were 4 words. You're next. Turn here. The mouth of the road is always hungry, and it waits for the curious. They left the ranch wedding just after midnight. Windows down, the smell of mesquite smoke and tamales still clinging to their clothes. It had been a good day, maybe the first in a long while. One where Hector Cruz didn't think too hard about his little boy's empty bedroom or his wife Isabel's tired, ghost-heavy eyes. A day where his teenage daughter Mariella smiled like she used to before. Now the desert hummed around them, vast and velvet black, with only the occasional glint of armadillo eyes and dying stars to interrupt the dark. They were halfway to Laredo when they saw it. A wooden sign, warped and leaning, more like a warning whispered by the wind than anything official. Do not follow the red light. No lo sigas. No importa que diga. Ignore that, Hector muttered. But Isabel was already turning in her seat, worry wrinkling her brow. You know what that is, don't you? Some bruja's bedtime story, he grunted. Mariella didn't speak. She just stared out the back window, her phone dead, her earbuds in, though no music played. That's when they saw the red light. It was just a tail light at first, maybe a motorcycle, maybe a beat-up truck. Nothing strange, and except that it wasn't on the road. It was moving through the brush, bobbing between mesquite trees like it was leading them. Probably some drunk lost on the ranch roads, Hector said, squinting. But the light turned suddenly, sharp and smooth, and disappeared into the mesquite. Then came the sound. A laugh. Not a child's laugh, but close. Too close. High-pitched, sharp as glass, echoing inside the car's frame. Mariella sat up straight. You heard that, right? She whispered. Isabel turned pale. Don't go after it, she said to Hector. Please. But grief has a way of turning men stupid, and Hector Cruz had. Grief stuffed in every crack of his chest, so he turned the wheel and followed the light. The road disappeared within minutes. Now it was just dust and brush, the truck lurching through hardpack like it had something to prove. The red light flickered ahead, always just a little too far. Where's it going? Mariella whispered. The laugh came again. This time it wasn't outside the truck, it was in the speakers. Then, a new voice. Papa. Hector slammed the brakes. Because that voice was his son, Mateo's. Dead 5 months. Burned in the bedroom when the propane heater cracked and the fire took. More than just a child, Papa. Don't leave me here. Isabel sobbed, turning her face to the window. Stop the car, Hector. Please, just stop. But the light blinked again, and it sounded closer. The red glow led them to a dry arroyo ringed with black brush. A coyote. Skull sat on a stump like an offering. The light stopped. So did the truck. Hector got out first. The air smelled like burnt hair. In the arroyo stood a figure, small, barefoot, head down. A boy. Mateo? Hector choked. The figure lifted its head. It was Mateo's face, burned on one side, smile too wide, but the eyes were not his son's. Papa, it said. Why did you leave me? Behind him, other figures rose. A girl with no hands singing lullabies. A man with a twisted neck whistling softly. A baby, too still to cry, crawling on knuckles. They all wore faces like borrowed masks. Isabel screamed. Mariella tried to run, but the mesquite trees had grown too thick, too fast. The path was gone. And behind them the truck engine coughed once, then died. The red light flared, and El Diablito stepped from the arroyo. He was no taller than a child, wearing a vest stitched from thorns and a hat made of black leather. His boots were too long. His mouth was full of teeth that didn't fit. His eyes were mirrors. He bowed low, mockingly. You chased your ghosts, Cruz, and now they're yours. He waved a hand, and the figures surged forward. Weeks later, a ranch hand found the Cruz. Family truck rusted in the brush, half buried like it had been sitting for years. The tires were rotted, the seats torn. There was no sign of Hector, Isabel, or Mariella, only a crayon drawing on the dashboard, a family of 4, smiling under, a sun drawn with flames, and on the passenger side mirror written in soot, No lo sigas, you'll never come back. Person 13, Amroyce, Rusty. Bledsoe had been driving Texas highways longer than most men had been alive. 43 years behind the wheel of his Peterbilt 379, which he called Miss Bonnie after his late wife. God rest her feisty soul. And the roads never got any less lonely, only longer. It was 3:13 in the morning, and Rusty was making the dead run from Austin to Abilene. A backload job, no manifest, just a few boxes of bulk tools and 24 cans of something labeled gear compound, not for human use. The sky was purple-black and the road was emptier than a preacher's heart. That's when he saw her, a little girl, standing by mile marker, 3:13. No shoes, pale feet on hot asphalt, holding a cracked music box in one hand and her other thumb stuck out like she knew how to hitch. Rusty's foot hit the brake before he even thought about it. That was his first mistake. She climbed in without a word, slid onto the passenger seat like she belonged there. No older than 9, maybe 10. Stringy black hair, face pale as moonlight on old bones, dressed like something out of a 1930s photo album. "Where you headed, sugar?" Rusty asked. She looked at him, then turned the tiny crank on the music box. Dying. Clink. Clink. Dying. The melody was wrong. Off by a note or two. Sounded like a lullaby, but if you listened too long, it made your stomach twist. "I'm going to see my daddy," she said finally, voice flat, accent like rusted barbed wire. Rusty nodded, uneasy. Your daddy lived near Abilene? He's waiting, she said, and then she sang, low and slow. Words not in English, not in any language Rusty knew, like something half lost in an old book of folk tales. Each syllable sounded damp and cold. That's when the sky began to move. At first he thought it was heat shimmer, dust devils maybe, but then he looked in the side mirror. Something was following them. It stretched from horizon to sky, long and thin like shadows in moonlight, limbs bending the wrong way, reaching. It had no face. But when the girl sang again, it smiled, or something like a smile formed in the darkness behind them. Rusty jerked the wheel. Jesus Christ, he gasped. You shouldn't look in the mirror, the girl whispered. He glanced again, and for half a second, her reflection was not her. It was a woman's face, and bruised, stitched at the mouth, eyes dripping tar. The kind of face you saw in night terrors after a bad childhood. The kind of face he hadn't seen since Bonnie. The girl turned the music box again. Dying. Clink. Clink. Stop that, he barked. She smiled softly. You remember me now, don't you? Rusty drove harder, faster. Miles spun past in the dark, but no matter how far they went, the mile marker 3 and 13 kept appearing. Again. And again. Impossible, he muttered. I died right here, the girl said, pointing, and then it all came back. A hitchhiker, a rainstorm, a fight with Bonnie over the radio. The little girl was just walking the shoulder. Rusty was drunk. He hadn't meant to hit her, hadn't meant to leave her in the ditch. I was going to tell someone, he whispered. I waited, the girl said. I waited by the mile marker, every night. But you never came back. Her eyes were bleeding now, slow and black. You said you'd come back. The thing in the sky was close now. It didn't fly. It hung like a spider suspended in the stars, its arms dragging across telephone wires, its head scraping thunder out of the clouds. It reached for the truck, and the Peterbilt shuddered. Rusty slammed the brakes. Smoke and dust clouded the highway. The girl turned to him. Give me your hands. What? Your hands, Rusty. You need to pay. They found his truck 3 days later, still idling, just off the road near mile marker 313. No sign of Rusty Bledsoe, just a busted music box sitting on the passenger seat, ticking out a broken lullaby. Some say if you're driving between Austin and Abilene late at night, and you pass mile marker 313, you might see a barefoot girl in a white dress. If you stop, she'll ask you where you're going. And if she sings, don't look in the mirror. Because what's climbing out of the sky behind you ain't just for you. It's for all the things you thought were buried and forgotten. Harlan Wade had driven nearly 8 hours when the road turned quiet as a graveyard. It was the kind of quiet that made you roll the window down just to hear something, anything, other than the hum of the tires and the low mutter of country, radio on a dying signal. He was 48, built like an old truck, beat up, dependable, and held together by guilt and nicotine. His eyes were red from grief, but he hadn't cried. Not really. Men like Harlan didn't cry, not even when their little brothers hung themselves in a trailer behind a boarded-up gas station outside Wichita Falls. Not even when they hadn't spoken in 4 years. Not even when the funeral was tomorrow, and he still didn't know what he was going to say to his mother. He was driving north out of Del Rio, down that long stretch of Highway 277, past towns with names like Bracketville and Sonora, places where the dead outnumbered the living, and gas stations had been turned into Pentecostal churches. Out here, cell service came and went like a ghost in a cornfield, and the sky went on forever. That's when he saw her. She was barefoot, walking along the shoulder, thin arms, long dark hair, a white nightgown, fluttering in the wind like something out of an old folk tale. She didn't look back at him as he passed, didn't hitchhike or raise a hand. Just walked, steady, straight, like she knew exactly where she was going. Harlan muttered something under his breath, checked the rear view. She was gone. He drove another 40 miles and stopped for gas at a dusty Valero where the pump asked for a zip code and the clerk didn't speak. He got back on the road, chewing a Slim Jim with one hand and fiddling with the radio with the other. Static. Then, a voice half crackled, singing, "I sleep where you dream, through bone and through seam." He changed the station, more static. The night was hot, Texas hot, moonless. The stars looked like bullet holes in the sky. And when he rounded a bend near a dry riverbed, he saw her again. Same girl, same gown, same slow, dragging walk. "God damn," he whispered. "No way." He passed her, didn't look back. At 1:42 a.m., Harlan finally pulled over. The woman was up ahead again, bare feet on gravel. Her hair blew across her face as she turned. He rolled down the window. "You all right, miss?" She didn't answer, just stepped closer. Her face was pale, too pale. Lips cracked. Her eyes were dark and deep like open graves. Her feet were bleeding. Not fresh blood. Old. Blackish. Like it had dried and rebled again and again. "You need help?" he asked. Then she leaned in. Her breath was cold. Not cool. Cold, like freezer air. She reached a hand through the window, touched his cheek, and whispered, "I sleep where you dream." Then she vanished. Just gone. Like the wind took her. He woke up in his truck at 9:06 a.m. Not on the road, in a wheat field, dirt up to the bumpers, weeds scratching the undercarriage. His hands were muddy. His shirt was inside out. There was blood under his nails and a piece of paper in his pocket that just said, "Slept, no phone service, no GPS." No idea how he'd gotten there. That day blurred. He reached a diner by sundown, sat at the counter trying to ignore the way the waitress blinked too slow and said, "You again, hun?" Even though he'd never been there. She poured his coffee. It was cold before he even touched it. Every night she came. In dreams at first. Then in the half-sleep between midnight and 3 a.m., where the shadows moved like they were breathing. She whispered things. Memories he'd buried. A rabbit he killed when he was 7. A fire he started in the woods at 13. The sound of his brother crying, back when their daddy hit too hard and drank too much. "You've been walking a long time, Harlan," she said. "You just didn't know it yet." He stopped remembering how he got places. He'd black out and wake up parked at the edge of abandoned barns or truck stops that had burned down 20 years ago. One time, he found himself parked behind a funeral home in Sweetwater. Inside the glove box, a lock of black hair. Still wet, he began to see others, sleepwalkers. Standing on the side of the road with their eyes closed, arms out, swaying like grass. Some were kids, some were old, some didn't have faces, and one night, just outside, Bollinger, he looked in the mirror, and saw himself walking behind the truck, mouth open, eyes rolled white. The thing driving the truck turned and smiled at him from the mirror. It had his face, but its eyes were like hers, black, bottomless. He made it to Wichita Falls a week late. Sam was already buried. His mother wouldn't return his calls. She said he'd already come, spoken strange words at the gravesite, and left a dead dove on the coffin. Harlan didn't remember any of it, but the music box on his dash started to play that same song. I sleep where you dream. In silence I scream. That night he drove down Highway 277 one last time. He didn't stop for coffee, didn't check the radio, just drove. When the truck was found, it was parked in a ditch, half buried in sand and dust. Driver's seat, full of dirt. No sign of Harlan Wade. But when the deputies opened the hood, they found teeth, human ones. 44 of them, arranged in the shape of an eye. They say if you're driving Highway 277 at night and feel your lids grow heavy, don't sleep, not even for a second, because she's still out there. The barefoot girl in white, the one who never blinks, the one who whispers, I sleep where you dream. And when she finds you, you won't wake up where you fell asleep. You'll wake up buried, still behind the wheel, but driving somewhere you'll never come back from.